And now, Mike's Thoughts. Today here on Mike's Thoughts, here on the Man Hour, Coach Prime has come out and said he is very, very disappointed that only one HBCU player was drafted in 2023 NFL Draft. Well, Coach Prime, if you are so disappointed in only one person going in the NFL, maybe the players are just not that good. Maybe they don't have very good coaching. Maybe at the end of the day, HBCU teams are just meant to be exactly that. They're supposed to be go to Alabama, get rolled by 85 points, and then move on with your easy-ass schedule for the rest of the year. HBCU historically do not have very good players. Historically are not very good. Yes, Jackson State did jump up like number 20, I think, in the regular season. Yes, they did have a pretty good couple seasons underneath your leadership. If you are so passionate about your HBCU teams, why did you jump ship and go to Colorado? Why did you jump ship and let all these HBCU players go in the transfer portal and then not come to Colorado? Because, you know, we coming, baby. We coming. Well, guess what? You pre-came and you keep talking this shit, and you are going to get steamrolled by Nebraska this year. You're going to get steamrolled by USC this year. You are going to get steamrolled by Colorado State. Whoever you want, Coach Prime, you just need to pump the brakes a little bit. I understand your alter ego's getting the best of you right now in that black cowboy hat and your Segway and your cowboy boots and all this other crap. But at the end of the day, man, pump the brakes and slow your roll. HBCU kids go to HBCU colleges because they pretty much can't cut it at Alabama. They can't cut it at LSU. They just aren't that good. That is why you go to a school like Jackson State. So you get on the field, you get some possible film, and hopefully the Canadian League comes calling. That is what it is at the end of the day. Combs, cue that intro. Are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. Why I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches, won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And what is up, Man Hour Nation? Michael Buckhouse here with the Man Hour. So to head to manhourradio.com. Check out the merchandise page. So check out the blog section as well. New blogs dropping each and every day over here, guys. But I got to welcome the man, the myth, the legend to the show. My peanut butter to my ladies, Brandon Beastie Combs. What's up, Beastie?
What is going on, Michael Buckheiser? What is going on, Man Hour Nation? You know, Buck, with your Mike's Thoughts, man, Jackson State in all these, you know, these lower level colleges, the HBCU colleges, the Division II colleges, the Division III colleges, you're absolutely 100%, 10% correct. They go to these colleges because they can't get into other universities. Jackson State was not their first choice. Jackson State was not where they wanted to go. You're not going to find Deion Sanders didn't go to Jackson State. How come Deion Sanders didn't choose to go to an HBCU when he was younger? He went to Florida State. Why? Because the light is bigger. Because you can get drafted easier. You want to talk about a Jackson State football team that, sure, they rolled just about everybody they played, but everybody that they played is Elkhorn State, Texas Southern, Alabama A&M, Campbell. You know, they're not playing the teams, and then they get into a bowl game, and what do they do in that bowl game? They lose to North Carolina Central.
Ouch.
Like, so I don't want to hear about how these guys aren't getting drafted, these players at this college or that college. There's a reason why. Now, look, you can go to some smaller colleges. I mean, was it North Dakota State or something like that had 2 or 3 players go, right?
Yep.
But You've got to be an outstanding football player at that level. You have to do some things that make people's heads turn. You have to do some things that make the scouts go, wow, that was pretty impressive. I don't care if you run up the score and you beat whoever, Alcorn State 66-3. Okay, cool. What did you do in that game that was so impressive? You beat Alcorn State. You're not playing against anybody. You're not playing against any talent. You barely have any talent on your team. What did you do to make heads turn? And the reality of the situation is that when they finally got into the limelight, when they finally got to play on the big stage in a bowl game on December 17th, North Carolina Central rolled them.
Right.
And that is why they don't get the attention that they get, because nobody wants to. You watch college football throughout the season. Watch college football throughout the season. Minus the Grambling game that they play every year. Minus the one or two games that CBS might cover when there's no other football on, when everybody else's seasons are over, that's when they'll show an HBCU game. That's when they'll show a Division II college playoff on ESPN. That's when they'll show these lower level schools and give you a chance to showcase what you got. However, the fact is the facts. The lower level schools, Division II, the HBCUs, those types of schools are the WNBA of college football.
Facts.
You might get a couple people to watch, but the talent level is less. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they're going to an HBCU. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're, the color of their skin or where they're coming. If the fact of the matter is, if they were that talented, they'd be at a big program.
Right. Well, and to go on, just to double down on it, when you go to a team like or go to Alabama, like in a division like the SEC or the Big 12 or the Pac-10 or whatever, right? You are playing against other 5-star caliber athletes week in and week out. You are playing against other NFL quality talent week in and week out. Why has Trey Lance and Carson Wentz kind of bust in the NFL so far? Because they're playing against Division II talent week in and week out. Now, when you go against other NFL talent, it takes you a while to progress, right? And so, it is what it is. Patriots End Zone is jumping in the chat here, and he says, can't get a SEC scholarship? There's always Grambling or Kansas State. You really had to jab Kansas State in there. Okay.
I mean, they let you in. They'll let anybody in.
Yeah, I didn't get a scholarship, though. I was just a preferred walk-on.
That's because it's like $5 a year to go to Kansas State. You don't need a scholarship.
30 years later, I'm still paying for that shit. Anyways,
it's hard
guys,
to afford $5.
Anyways, guys, that was Buck's thoughts here. But Combs, we have some exciting news here at Man Hour. So my goal for this year for our Facebook page was to reach 20,000 total followers, right, through the whole year. Mm-hmm. This is month 6, so we're about halfway through the year of 2023, and we have surpassed 22.8 thousand followers on our Facebook page, Combs.
Wow.
So, guys, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for liking and commenting and doing everything you do over there on the Facebook page. Sometimes we post controversial stuff just to get the people going. Like, man, Combs, we got death threats. We have made it, baby.
Yeah, we have gotten a few death threats. We've had a few a few things here and there come up, but we've also got a lot of good followers. We got a lot of good new coming people in. Like we got a kid named Joel Lytle who has reached out and who watches the show every once in a while. So shout out to Joel. He is becoming a fan of the show. He likes what we do. We had people, it showed when we were at Bourbon Street. We had people sign up when we were at Bourbon Street just to watch the show, come up to us after the show to let us know how good of a job we did and how much they enjoyed what we were doing. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, man, we thank each and every one of our fans. We thank each and every one of our listeners, whether you can join us live or whether you join us in podcast form, whichever way that you come at us. The fact that we're doing this, the fact that we're reaching 3.4 million people a week on social media, I mean, that's proof that, we're doing stuff that you guys like to hear. And we're going to continue to bring it to you as long as you want us to.
Yeah. And I think there's a plus 100 bet saying that the person that sent us the death threat will never respond again. But Combs, is that the best odds out there? I mean, how do we find the best odds that the person will never respond?
Well, you could go to one of our sponsors, which is Betstamp.app. Today's podcast is brought to you by Betstamp.app, which is helping thousands of people win at sports betting for free. Same way travelers use Google Flights or Expedia to find the best prices, bettors can now use Betstamp to do the same. When you place a bet, the odds given by a sports book will determine how much you can possibly win. Even when betting on the same outcome, different sports books will offer varying payouts, and these differences can be huge. Thankfully, Betstamp allows you to easily line shop for the most profitable odds across all sports books. You can click on any matchup and instantly see the different odds for game lines, player props, and even future bets. Line shopping is the simplest way to find an edge in sports betting to maximize your chances of winning long-term. On average, Betstamp users win an extra $1,000 a year just by line shopping. It helped me gain some money yesterday, I could tell you that much. Put a couple of bets out there, and even on Sunday, I put a bet out there. The White Sox were in the ninth inning. They're down by 4. I was like, wow, what the hell? Found the best line on Betstamp.app, which happened to be a plus 2,400. And so I went with it, said, hell with it. Let's see what they do. They score 7 runs in the bottom of the ninth, and I win myself a couple $100.
Bam, baby.
So that's the way to do it. You go to Betstamp.app. It line shops just like if you were on Expedia and any of these, travel sites that you go on to find the best hotel prices, the best, flight prices, the best car rental prices. Betstamp is doing that for sports betting. And as long as you're not betting on Alabama college baseball, apparently, you can find the Betstamp.app on the Apple iOS store, Google Play Store, or through your browser at Betstamp.app. To access all these benefits, sign up using promo code MANHOUR and start your journey to successful sports betting today. If you forget to use the code upon sign up, you can always enter our code in your Betstamp account settings afterwards. Check it out. That is promo code MANHOUR.
Comb, I pride myself on a few things, and that was the best segue I think I've ever had. I'm just going to put it out there.
It was one of the very few that have actually made sense.
Yeah, it was perfect. But we do got some people jumping in the shot. Of course, you got Patriots End Zone talking about loyal fans there. My man, Wayne G. Thank you for joining us there on Draft Night, by the way, Wayne G. You killed it as well. Katie Wilson jumping in the chat. He says, yo, man hour. What is up, Katie? Hope you're having a grand old night. And, of course, Michelle is jumping in the chat. As always, she says, I will always be your biggest fan. Hands down. Best support system out there.
She loves you, Buck.
Yeah, best support system out there, hands down. Right there is on Michelle. But, guys, we do got an action-packed show for you today. It is Way or No Way Tuesday here, so we're going to talk a little bit about Jordan Love's contract extension. We're going to talk about 2 running backs getting drafted in the first round. What? Talk about dumb. Chris Jones possibly still be a Kansas City Chiefs. And the Ravens, they got a lot better in this year's draft. But first, Combsy's got a test, and it is Combs' eye test.
Yes, sir. This is Combs' eye test. And as you guys know, I don't like to go off of just stats. I like to go off of things that I see, things that I watch, way players are playing on the field, and not just exactly what their numbers are telling you. Well, this one actually has nothing to do with numbers on the field. This actually has to do with an organization off the field. The Detroit Lions were everybody's pick at the end of last season. Oh, they're coming. They were 9-8. They had a great season. They finished strong, and they're coming. Next year, they're going to be everybody's darling pick. As a matter of fact, I was starting to think I might pick them too to win the NFC North. And then the Detroit Lions got to be the Detroit Lions again. They panicked. They did all those things that they do. As soon as it was like, they were like, oh, wow, everybody's picking us to win. We might actually do something this year. What do we do? You know what? Let's trade DeAndre Swift. Let's trade Jeffrey Okudah. Let's draft a running back with the number 8 overall pick. Let's not draft, anybody that can help us with the run stopping, which we were ranked 32nd in the year last year. Let's not draft anybody that can help us with the passing offense. That was ranked 26th in the league last year. Let's not do any of that stuff. Let's go ahead and get rid of 2 of our really good young players that we spent really good high draft picks on just 2 to 3 years ago. That's what the Detroit Lions have done. That's what the Detroit Lions did with this draft. That's what they did with trades. They were like, you know what? We can't handle this, so we're not going to give anybody for Jared Goff to throw the ball to, other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, who will probably get killed by the week 3, because we don't have anybody that can block either. And you know what we didn't do? Draft somebody that can block. And we have Jared Goff, a non-mobile quarterback that we can't block for. So, in turn, the Detroit Lions took this draft, and without any other team in this division making a pick, had the Bears not made a pick, had the Vikings not made a pick, had anybody else not made a pick, the Green Bay Packers not made a pick, everybody in that division got better just because of what the Lions did in the draft. The Lions made everybody in the division better by the things that they decided to do in this draft. And, you know, I listened to our guy over there with the Lions Talk podcast yesterday. I commented, did everything I needed to do to help him out, gain some viewers. But I could not even begin to fathom that even he believed the stuff he was trying to spew and trying to say about the Lions actually having a good draft, about the Lions actually making the right move. Because if you believe this, either A, you're not watching, or B, you're 10 times smarter about football than anybody else on the face of the earth, because you're the only one that believes that what the Lions did helped them get better. The Lions went out and got worse over the draft. The Lions went out and got worse over the offseason. They did everything they could to hand the division back to whoever else wanted it, because they can't handle the pressure of maybe being a successful organization. That's Combs' eye test.
Combs, there are a few times when you nail it right on the head. Actually, I lie. You normally nail it on the head pretty well 99% of the time. Just like your winning percentage over Wayne G on debates, but we'll get into that later. But the Lions definitely did not do well in this draft. Drafting a running back period in the first round is dumb. We'll get into that a little bit later. But speaking of Wayne G, Patriots Enzo says every dumb fan thinks her team drafted 9 all-pros. That is pretty much facts on that. But Combs, we do have our first question of the day. Are you ready to talk a little bit of Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, let's do it.
Katie Wilson over here on YouTube says, how do you guys feel about Clyde Edwards-Helaire not signing with the Chiefs? So Combs, as you may have not heard, Edwards-Helaire did not get his 5th-year option picked up by the Kansas City Chiefs. So basically after this season, he'll be a free agent unless they get some type of deal worked out. So how do we feel about Clyde not signing with the Chiefs? He did not choose not to sign with the Chiefs, Katie. The Chiefs chose not to sign him. And honestly, they kind of made a good deal. Let's just be honest. Clyde hasn't played a full season since, I don't know, ever in the NFL. They drafted him in the first round, 3-4 years ago, right? So, I mean, it was not a smart draft pick in the first place. Yes, he showed some signs, some sparks his rookie season, but he has been below average since then at best. And this is why you don't draft a running back in the first round of the NFL draft, because they are a dime a dozen at the end of the day. And unfortunately, you use them and abuse them and you let them walk. The only reason why you would draft a running back in the 5th year is to get that in the first round is to get that 5th year option. But you definitely don't drive them 8th or 12th. Like, basically, a running back shelf life is 6-7 years. Get them on that 4-year deal, use them and abuse them, and let them walk. Let some other team sign them for a big deal. What are your thoughts on that, Combs?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, he was wildly underperforming for the Kansas City Chiefs. They thought they had a spark plug. He was one of the reasons why they were okay with letting Tyreek Hill walk,
right?
Was because they felt like they had a guy who was just as explosive in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It just didn't turn out that way. I mean, this guy is averaging, I think, 51 yards a game total throughout his career. And I mean, his best year was his rookie year. I believe he didn't even have 1,000 yards rushing that year.
Nope.
I don't think he's past 800 yards in a season.
I don't think he's played more than 10 games in a season, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think maybe his rookie year he might have played 12 or 13. but since then it's definitely probably not more than 10, and he's hurt, and he's a lot like the Bears have a couple of guys over here that are always injured, right? It was an okay. They were okay with letting him walk. To be honest with you, I can't really blame him. I wish Clyde Edwards-Helaire the best. Hopefully, he can find a spot somewhere. Would not be surprised to see him sign with the Bengals. Something a lot of teams' rivals tend to do. They tend to pick up a guy who maybe can help them pick up on some things that they need to pick up on.
Yep.
But they got Isaiah Pacheco, and so they'll be all right. They do need some help, though. I mean, in the run game, they're going to need some help.
Well, they still got Isaiah Pacheco. They got Jared McKinnon. They got the on the practice squad. They pick up the Broncos starting running back from last year. When the Broncos cut him like week 7, week 8, the Chiefs picked him up on the practice squad. So he's still on the practice squad. I forget his.
McKinnon's gone too.
No, they just signed him to a deal, or they're working on a deal with like him still. So he'll be back.
Okay.
But of course, he is like 31, 32 years old too. So.
Yeah.
And they also drafted a running back this year as well. So the Chiefs will be totally fine. I'm not worried about it, Katie. And let's just be honest. The Chiefs, they have had a plethora of running backs the last couple seasons. So the yards may not jump out at people because they are a running back by committee. So you can have all these 7th, 8th, or 6th, 7th, and undrafted free agents in the backfield, and they're going to be just
and you
fine.
still have the best quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
So, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be just fine. At least they didn't go 4 rounds passing up on Will Levis and instead decide to draft Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round. At least they didn't do all that, passing on him 4 or 5 times like the Detroit Lions did.
Yeah, well, only time will tell. Dan Hood is in the chat. He says, "What's up, man? Hour? What's up, Dan Hood?" Combs, I posted a poll on Facebook early this morning before I went to bed, and Howie Roseman is the Philadelphia Eagles general manager, and for the last couple years, he has absolutely dominated the draft. And I put a poll out there saying, like, I asked, is he the best general manager in the NFL? And many people are saying no. They think Brett Beach is one of the better GMs in the NFL. But I do think the Eagles won the draft this year. They got
the Eagles did a good job. The Eagles did a good job. I surprisingly, I think the Houston Texans did a great job in this draft.
Yeah.
I think, picking their guy at number 2, the quarterback at number 2, and then trading back up to get into the number 3 spot,
that was huge.
To get Will Anderson. I mean, they got both of their guys at the same time. It was a really smart draft for them. The Bears had a good draft. I liked it. I didn't love it. There are a lot of good GMs in this league that know what they're doing. And it's really tough to tell. The Eagles did kill this draft, though. I mean, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl last year, and they got a lot better through this draft. And that's going to be a scary thought for teams in the NFC vying for a Super Bowl bid.
Yeah, and so speaking of the draft, let's look at last year's draft because when you make draft day trades, you have to kind of group that player into your draft as well. Last year they got AJ Brown on draft day, and this year they got DeAndre Swift. Many people are really, really excited about the DeAndre Swift addition to the Philadelphia Eagles. They think he is going to slide right in and pick up right where Miles Sanders left off. Do you think this was probably one of the biggest steals of the draft, of getting DeAndre Swift to the Philadelphia Eagles?
It certainly was. I mean, you're going to put DeAndre Swift with Rashad Penny and Kenneth Gainwell. I do believe he can pick up right where they left off. I do believe that this offense was already one of the top 3 offenses in the NFL, and they got better with DeAndre Swift. And so I really like what they did. I really like their picks, and they're going to be something. They really are. They
are going to be really, really good. However, this is the downfall that I see with DeAndre Swift. So much running backs that we've been talking about so far today, he has yet to play a full season healthy, right? Was it his rookie year? I think he started that injury bug, and he's kind of just been, we don't know if he's going to be on the field or not. It's been so up and down. But Philadelphia Eagles fans, I don't want you guys to put your expectations as an MVP type of level for DeAndre Swift, just because you have to realize Miles Sanders, just a couple years ago, many people had him as a top 5 running back in the league. He was almost a cornerstone of that defense, of that offense. Yes, Jalen Hurts was a big deal. A.J. Brown was a big deal. Devontae Smith is a big deal. But losing a running back like Miles Sanders to the Carolina Panthers might come back and bite you in the ass. So hopefully, because I believe they drafted a running back as well, so hopefully they get that two-headed monster happening in Philadelphia Eagles, because we are in a 2-back league system right now.
Right. And they didn't draft a running back in this draft, but they did draft Jalen Carter. And the reason why I think that was a good draft pick for them is because they have the leadership in the locker room. They have the leadership in the coaching staff to be able to sit down with this kid and be like, look, this is the way you're going to do it. And if you don't, you're going to find yourself on a practice squad somewhere, because that is a type of leadership that they have with guys like Jason Kelce, with guys, that the tight end whose name I can't remember at the off the top of my head, Goddard. They have those guys. They have that veteran leadership in that locker room to actually be able to sit this guy down and be like, hey, look, this is what we are. And you're either going to fall into ranks, and this stuff that you did with the Georgia Bulldogs, that's not going to play here. Okay. So you either get in shape, or we're going to ship you out. I mean, a guy like Fletcher Cox, imagine him, not taking any shit from a guy like Jalen Carter. So you're going to be in that defensive room with a guy like Fletcher Cox, somebody who can really, hone you in. You've got some former players that they've had there from Georgia as well. So he's going to have some familiar faces. I think it was the perfect landing spot for Jalen Carter. If he's going to reach his full potential, I think he's going to do it with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I really like that pickup for them. But even then, I still say that at 30, when they stole Nolan Smith off the board, the fact that he was still available for them was huge. And this team that kind of showed that they had some trouble, especially in the Super Bowl, had some trouble dealing with the run game, had some trouble dealing with, quarterbacks breaking open. A guy like Nolan Smith can really slow that down. He's a linebacker that can run a 4.6 40. So he's got some speed. He can catch up to the speed guys, and he could help you out tremendously in that run game.
Yeah, man, it's always nice getting pressure on the quarterback. But going back to the Jalen Carter and the Georgia Bulldogs thing, I think that is all the Eagles like to draft is Georgia players, because they drafted like 10 Georgia players the last two seasons. But Jalen Carter, you are exactly right, landed in a perfect opportunity with the Philadelphia Eagles, just because he came. The biggest knock on him was he came to his pro day out of shape. He came to the combine out of shape, right? What is going to get you in the most shape? Going against an all-pro center every day in practice. Going against a all-pro offense every day in practice. That is going to get you in shape really, really fast, and going to get you really, really good really, 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 really fast. Jalen Carter might have the biggest upside in this draft because of the opportunity where he landed. Like he absolutely landed in a great spot, and the Philadelphia Eagles capitalized on this 100%.
Yeah, just a phenomenal job. I think there were a couple teams that did really, really good jobs. I think Ryan Poles did a really good job as well in Chicago. I think that Houston did a really good job. There's a couple teams that really, really just were terrible.
Yeah, and
the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, well, we will get into that at a later time. But Combs, it is time to get into the way or no way here on Monday or Tuesday edition of Man Hour Sports Talk, NFL Talk. And Jordan Love, Combs, has officially signed a 1-year extension with the Green Bay Packers through the 2024 NFL season. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is no longer a Green Bay Packer. Jordan Love is listed as a starter. So, Combs, way or no way does Jordan Love have to lead the Packers to the playoffs this season to be deemed as successful?
No, I think that the Packers are going to go into this year the same way the Bears went into last year. Let's see if the kid can improve. Let's see if the kid has the intangibles. Let's see if this is a kid that we want to build around. And then next year, we can really go after it. We can go after a piece at wide receiver. We can go after a piece on the offensive line to help protect. We can go after a running back or whatever we got to do to fill holes and build around him. We can do that. But we're not, the Green Bay Packers, they're in a spot where, again, they're going to be playing in a division that's not great. The Detroit Lions did everything they could to massacre any chance that they had. The Bears should be better than what they were, but I mean, they only had 3 wins last year. So being better than what they were is about a 7-9 win team. Looking at their schedule, that's about where I had them at. I had them about 9 to 10 wins. So the Vikings really are probably the cream of crop of this division, but they're only like a 10-11 win team. So you could be in this as an 8-9 team. You could be right in the thick of things as a division. So that's what the Packers are looking for. They're looking for, you can grow without wins.
Right.
You can look good without winning. And that's what they need from Jordan Love. If he takes them to the playoffs, then they did. I mean, at that point, there's really no doubt, right? Like, you've got your guy for the next 10 to 15 years, even though you just let go of Aaron Rodgers. So that would be huge for them. It would really suck for me as a Bears fan to see that happen. I hope Jordan Love, it goes 2-15 this year and looks like trash. That's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like the quarterbacks always draft, or sorry, the quarterbacks. The Packers always draft quarterbacks really, really well. Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Jordan Love. Patriots End Zone says no way, but he also cannot look like a rookie either. So this has been one of the biggest knocks about Jordan Love is his inability to perform right. He throws a lot of preseason interceptions, right? He does this and he does that. Well, it's preseason. It's meaningless games. He got thrown in the fire. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit. So way or no way does Jordan Love have to lead the Packers to the playoffs. Guys, this is a no way. Much like what Combs just said, Jordan Love just has to show growth and leadership over each week. Now, it may not perform into a lot of wins, but I'm going on record right here on March 2nd, 2023, 206 days before the NFL kickoff weekend. And I think Jordan Love is going to have a spectacular season. He is going to wow and shock a lot of people this season. Now, does that translate into a very long career? It will be a long, mediocre career. But I think he is going to take 15 steps forward this year. He might get that big, lucrative contract, and then 2024, 25 and beyond, he'll be just like that middle of the road quarterback, much like a Dak Prescott or like a Tua, or just very, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my job, but I'm going to need players around me to be better. But this year I do expect him to be leaps and bounds better than what he has ever been, which is kind of a devil's advocate type of saying, right? Because he hasn't played, but
right,
he will definitely be very, very good this season, I think, and then take a couple steps back.
If he is a middle of the road quarterback, if he is a guy that they know needs a bunch of help around him, he won't be a Packers quarterback for very long.
You don't think so?
They will go out and find their guy that can lead them. No, because the one thing that the Packers won't do is stand for mediocrity. And as much as I hate to say it, I mean they're really a model franchise. The Patriots, these teams that are consistently good, these teams that are consistently trying to be good. When you're talking about teams like the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, teams that spend money and try to be good, teams that go out and if the pieces aren't working, they don't hesitate to find the new pieces. They weren't afraid to, it took them a little bit too long because they showed him a lot of respect, but they weren't afraid to walk away from Aaron Rodgers and tell him get lost.
Right.
So I don't foresee him being a middle of the road type guy and being a Green Bay Packer for much longer than 1 or 2 seasons.
So over here on our Facebook page, a person, I forgot who the name was, but they said they see the Green Bay Packers tanking this season to get Caleb Williams next year in the NFL draft. Do you think this is a all-in year for Jordan Love? Like, hey, you have to show it to us or we're going to draft somebody to replace you.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the message you necessarily give to him. I don't think you go and tell him that per
Obviously
se.
not, right.
But I do think that that's the way that they're going to look at it. I mean, I'm almost 99.9% positive that's the way that the Bears treated Justin Fields last year. That's the way they were looking at him. All right, let's see what we've got. And if we have it, great. And if we don't, then we'll be in a prime position to take somebody, right? Well, they found out that they had it. And so they went and did everything that they could to build around it. Now, that's probably the way the Packers are going to approach this. It's the way any smart GM would approach it.
Patriots End Zone says they won't be bad enough to get a number one. So he's thinking that Caleb Williams will go number one overall. Let's say they are a seventh overall pick, right? They get 4 wins this season. Do you package a deal to try to get up to number one to get your quarterback?
I mean, you could. I mean, look, there's all sorts of ways you go about it. It really just depends. It's going to be hard. It's hard to answer that question right now.
Right, obviously.
It's hard to say, this is what we want to do. This is what, they need to do. We'll know probably by midseason which way the Packers need to go, what the Packers need to do.
Right. I mean, like, honestly, we thought they were tanking last year, right? Like Aaron Rodgers, like, F you guys, I'm giving it to the win, and come week 18 they're battling for a full 4 a playoff spot. So
right,
only time will tell. But speaking of only time will tell, Combs, there were 2 running backs that were drafted in this year's draft in the first round. Robertson to the Falcons at number 8 overall to the Atlanta Falcons, and Gibbs at 12 overall to the Detroit Lions. So Combs, way or no way, both the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons were reaching on their first round picks by drafting running backs.
Oh. I don't know what they were doing. Like, why you take a running back in the first round is beyond me.
Especially the top 10.
When you take a player, not only are they supposed to be a starter for you, if you take a player in the first, second, third, maybe even the 4th round, you could argue that these need to be day 1 starters. However, you're not going to be turning around your franchise with a running back because it's just they're a dime a dozen. Look, the Tennessee Titans are shopping around Derrick Henry, for God's sakes. That should tell you how unvalued the position is. And to waste your draft pick at number 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, anywhere in the first round, I would have told you was a bad pick. Anywhere Bijan Robinson would have gone 1 through 32 in the first round, or 1 through 31, because there was only 31 picks this year, because, the Dolphins decided to be stupid. There were only 31 picks. Anywhere 1 through 31 for Bijan Robinson to go, I would have told you was a bad pick. It just was. It was a bad spot to go. Now, look, the Lions lioned. I believe the other team that picked a running back in the first round might have been the Falcons. I mean, they just organizations that you are like, yeah, I'm not surprised that they did something stupid. and so yes, they were reaches, bad picks. But it completely changed the first round.
Oh,
I mean, completely changed the first round. And so I don't know what they were thinking. And yeah, the 110% they were reaches.
Yeah. So Patriots End Zone says Detroit reached, Atlanta did not, but I wouldn't take either at 31. So that's kind of contradicting yourself there, Patriots End Zone. You said the Falcons did not reach, but you wouldn't take them in the first round. So Robertson, I think, is going to be a very, very good player. I got a chance to watch him because through my Kansas State team there, I got a chance to watch him a couple games, 2-3 years worth of games, and he is very, very explosive. However, I don't think the Atlanta Falcons offense right now is built around a explosive running back, right? They are built to push the ball down the field. You can't push the ball down the field with a running back. You got something to say about that?
Yeah, but there's so many other things that they could have done. Bijan Robinson, yes, he's an explosive player. He might have been the most explosive running back in the draft,
Right.
but he's not. He is he's a gimmick guy. Excuse me. He's a gimmick guy, for lack of a better explanation. He is, what was the guy from the Saints? What was his name? The tight end / quarterback / wide receiver / running back, Taysom Hill. Like, that is what you're going to be. He's not, he's a better form of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who we were just talking about earlier. Like,
right.
I don't know why you make that pick so early. You also, not only do you make that pick early, but I mean, you do other. It just, I don't know. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah,
it didn't make sense to me whatsoever.
While our live draft show on Thursday up at Chicago at 115 Bourbon Street, we all looked at each other. Me, you, and Fitz are like, "What the hell just happened?" As soon as the Falcons drafted the guy, we're like, "What?" And I heard Todd McShay or Mel Kiper in the back of my head, Todd, right? And I heard Wayne G out there, like, "You never drafted a running back in the first round." And I'm like,
"Yeah,
man, what?" Like, at number 8, and then a half hour later, boom, at 12, the Lions draft a running back, and like, at the time, I don't think they traded DeAndre Swift yet, so they already had DeAndre Swift, and they had it was just very, very mind-boggling at the end of the day. So we have Dan Marino's best friend here in the chat here. Anthony Finkel says every hour is man hour. Shout out to all the men out there being men. Anthony, thank you for tuning in, man. Did you get that reference at all there, Combs?
I did. Finkel.
Okay.
Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn.
Gotcha.
I got you there. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for joining the show. Every hour is man hour. You are correct. Shout out to those men out there that are doing everything that they can. Look, there are certain picks that people make, like the one that Bears reached on a second round, Gervon Dexter, right, from Florida, the linebacker from Florida, and they're doing word association with the draft picks. And what do I hear, Mel Kiper? Well, if I had one word for this linebacker, it's blockable. And I'm like, that is not the word you want to hear from a guy your team just took second. I don't. There are some moves that, maybe you see something that the rest of us don't see. Maybe you're the smartest man in the room. Maybe whatever the case is, just running back in the second round when there's so many other opportunities on the board for your team, when you have so many other needs to get better, it boggles my mind why you would take a running back in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, obviously every scout sees things a little bit different. I see this player as being better than this player, but you see it just so it is all an eye test at the end of the day. And a team that has been failing at the eye test as of late is the Kansas City Chiefs, and Chris Jones and the Chiefs have yet to sign a long-term deal, and Chris Jones currently is a free agent with the Kansas City Chiefs. But Combs, the Chiefs say that they are trying to work out a deal with Chris Jones moving forward. So I got to ask you this question. Way or no way do the Kansas City Chiefs need Chris Jones in 2023 on their defense to make it back to the Super Bowl?
I mean, they're losing a lot of pieces. And a lot of it is they got hamstrung by the contract they gave their quarterback. And, as much as we'll talk about him being the best quarterback in the league right now, which I don't think that there's any question that he is the best quarterback in the league right now, I just don't think that they can afford to keep the pieces around him, which is going to be a problem. We said that when he signed the contract.
Right.
We said this is going to be an issue for them moving forward. They're going to be good for the next 2 to 3 years, but how are they beyond those 2 to 3 years? Well, here we are, year 2 to 3. Let's see what's going to happen here. I don't think they're going to keep Chris Jones. I don't think they can afford to keep Chris Jones. They also had the other defensive end there,
Frank Clark,
who was still Frank Clark, who is still a free agent. A guy that, to be honest with you, my Chicago Bears need to go out and get. We did not get an edge rusher in the draft. We need to go out and get a guy like Frank Clark.
Right.
So I don't know that they can afford these guys. And that was the risk they knew they were taking when they signed the deal that they signed, with Patrick Mahomes. And now we're going to see how it affects them moving forward.
Yeah, so we are starting to see here in the NFL very massive deals, right? But it seems like money is all kind of just like a past tense thing where like everything can be restructured, make it into signing bonuses, make it into this, make it into that, whatever, right? So does Chris Jones need to be on the Kansas City Chiefs? No, he doesn't, because he was not that effective last season. Yes, he had a really good, Super Bowl. Yes, he had a really good playoff run, but in the regular season, he was kind of like, where's Chris Jones? We're paying this man all this money, and he's not even getting pressure on the quarterback. Like, what is going on? So now I do think Frank Clark and Chris Jones are probably one of the best 1-2 duos in the NFL. But for whatever reason, it doesn't matter who you put at the Chiefs defense. You could put Aaron Donald, Frank Clark, and Chris Jones and Joey Bosa all on the same defense. And for whatever reason, that Kansas City Chiefs defense, the first 8 weeks of the season, they're going to give up 40 points a game. They're going to give up 600 yards a game. They're going to not get a turnover or a sack, or just for whatever reason, the first 8 weeks of the season, they freaking suck. But after that, they are arguably one of the best defenses in the league. Like, look at the last couple seasons from week 8, from week 9 and beyond. The Chiefs are a top 5, top 10 defense in the NFL. It's just the first 8 weeks, they're terrible, and it kind of moves them down in the rank. So, no, we don't need Chris Jones. We can work around. We can figure something out. But it would be nice to have him, but we don't need him.
You say that, look at them being, this defense. They were that defense with Chris Jones and with Frank Clark.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, those are big pieces that you can't just, like, they're not running backs. You can't just plug and play somebody to get the production you're going to get from these guys. Now, did Chris Jones have a bad year getting to the quarterback? Yes, he was not great at getting to the quarterback last year, but he was awesome in run defense.
Right. He
was awesome in stuffing the run. Like, so as at a defensive tackle position, you're not really looking for a defensive tackle that can get to the quarterback. You're looking for a defensive tackle to plug holes and to stop the run. You're looking for your edge rushers to really be able to get to the quarterback. And if you got a defensive tackle that has that ability, then great. But I think, yes, they need Chris Jones to be good. They need Frank Clark to be good. I don't think they can afford it. I really don't. I think they're going to get better offers from better places, and the only way they're staying is if they take a hometown discount to continue to try to win Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes as long as this window is open.
Which that is what they've said, is they want to stay in Kansas City. That's why they haven't taken any deal anywhere else. But I do have an insider touch saying that the Kansas City Chiefs and the Raiders might make a trade for Lizzo for Chris Jones. So we'll see how that goes. But Jim Powell jumped in the chat. Speaking of Raiders fans,
she's a Viking, I thought,
like a Minnesota Viking. But Jim Powell says Chris Jones is planned for. If he's getting tied up, Frank Clark is getting in. You are exactly right, Chris Jones. Some of the best defense of linemen we never hear from, because they're taking 2-3 guys on every play. And Chris Jones did do that last season, yes. But sometimes I feel like when you're getting $20-30 million a season, I should hear your name like a little bit on the TV, right? I don't know. Like, it is what it is. But moving on here, Combs, the Baltimore Ravens, they made a big splash here on the NFL draft as well. The draft weekend, they signed Lamar Jackson to a grand old deal of $260 million over the next 5 years. They brought in Odell Beckham Jr. Antonio Brown is coming. They're starting to get a lot of receivers in Baltimore right now, Combs, plus with all their running gag and defense as well. So way or no way, with the recent transaction that the Baltimore Ravens have made, they are going to win the NFC North in 2023.
The AFC North is up for grabs. The Cincinnati Bengals are still the team to beat in that division. Can Lamar Jackson stay healthy enough to be able to get these guys the ball? Still having Tyler Huntley as his backup, I think, helps. I actually think that Huntley might have a better arm, might be a better pocket passer than Lamar Jackson. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards in the backfield. But like you said, Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, these guys coming on. They still have Nelson Aguilar, who, if he can reach some of his potential that he had when he was with Philadelphia,
Right.
could be really good. And so I really think that they're the second best team in this division. They might even be third. Cleveland might jump ahead of Baltimore. I'm not sold on Odell Beckham being able to play every game for you. I'm not sold Odell Beckham playing every game for you, not getting the ball 10 times a game isn't going to affect your locker room. And I'm not so sure that we've got a quarterback in Lamar Jackson that can stay healthy enough to play a full season.
So it's funny that you say that you think the Ravens are the second or third best team in this league. I still have them like last in the division. Unfortunately, I think the AFC North is the most competitive division in all of football. Of course, we said that about the AFC West last year. And we saw what happened. Like everybody else kind of fell out, and the Chiefs kind of separated themselves once again. But I don't see anybody in the AFC North really underneath 10 wins, 10, 11 wins this season. The AFC North is so loaded, just at this point. But yes, the Baltimore Ravens did sign a good deal for Lamar Jackson. Yes, they got Odell Beckham Jr. Yes, they got Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews. But the unsung hero right now for the Baltimore Ravens is J.K. Dobbins and then Gus Edwards. Their two-headed monster in the running back game, that is going to be game-changing. If both of those guys can stay healthy this year and they can keep Lamar Jackson from rushing for 150 yards a game and let J.K. Dobbins do it, they might be successful. They might win the North. But as history shows, Lamar Jackson only going to play 12 games this season. He is going to take the offense underneath his shoulders, right? Who cares about Jay Flowers? Who cares about Rashad Bateman? It is all about what can Lamar Jackson do for Lamar Jackson. Basically Lamar Jackson in his head says, I need to rush for 150 yards and I need to throw for 150 yards, and I don't care if we win or lose. It is all about getting me MVP votes in the end, and that's why the Baltimore Ravens will ultimately fail this season, because Lamar Jackson seems like a very selfless player to me.
Well, and see, that's the thing where you start getting scared about the Baltimore Ravens, right? When we talk about teams like the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles, were like, these teams are good. This team is going to be a team that you're going to have to deal with come playoff time. But when it comes to a Baltimore Ravens, you start going, if Lamar Jackson can stay healthy, if J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards can break out, if Odell Beckham cannot be a head case in the locker room, if Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman can get the ball, if Mark Andrews stays healthy, if the offensive line can, there's so many ifs. And once you start getting to that point, that's when you're like, yeah, I don't know about this team. I don't know what they can do. I don't know what their ceiling is. I don't know what their floor really is. So it's really skeptical when you talk about teams like that. When you have to go to so many ifs, it really scares you, right? Like the Los Angeles Chargers. We know they're a good, talented football team, but they only have one if, and that one if is if they can stay healthy. Right. Whereas the Baltimore Ravens, it's if they can stay healthy, if Lamar Jackson can be a good a good passing presence in this offense, if all these other things that we just talked about, that's when you start getting scared off about a team. There's just too many ifs.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the best comparisons to Lamar Jackson that I've heard in a very, very long time. And Jim Powell says Lamar Jackson equals Cordell Stewart from the Pittsburgh Steelers from the early 2000s. Or actually, it was 90s, right, when Cordell Stewart was here.
Yeah, that is a really good comparison.
I mean, obviously, Lamar Jackson probably has a little bit more athletic ability than Cordell Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, he also won an MVP. I mean, so there is that. I think he's right when it comes to the passing portion of his game. You when he throws the ball, you kind of hold your breath.
Right.
And I don't know that that's really a guy you want to make the top paid player in the NFL, but the Baltimore Ravens did just that. So we're going to find out quickly how well it works for them. We're going to know this season really quickly how good the Baltimore Ravens really are.
Let me ask you this question. He got a 5-year, $260 million deal after much negotiations, right?
Mhm.
Let's say the Ravens do not make the playoffs this season. Let's say they're a below 500 team. They're 7-9, 6-10. Does John Harbaugh get fired?
Possibly. I know he's really tight with ownership, so I think they might give him an opportunity to go get his own quarterback and then see what it is.
You can't afford that though. You have Lamar Jackson for 5 years, $260 million guarantee like what 170 so whatever it was, right? I mean,
yeah,
you are married to him for 5 years.
Their out of division schedule is pretty tough. I mean, yes, they do get to play against the Houston Texans, which might be a little bit of a tougher task now, right? With Will Anderson on the edge. But you've got teams like the Indianapolis Colts, Seattle Seahawks, the Rams, the Dolphins. You got the Titans, the Jaguars, the Cardinals, the Niners, the Chargers. I mean, all of these teams are playoff teams. Like you're going up against a bunch of teams that have the opportunity to be playoff teams this year or were playoff teams last year, teams that we're talking very highly of, and they're all on your schedule. So it's put up or shut up time for Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
And we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna know really quickly which Lamar Jackson we got because they don't really have a powder puff team on their schedule.
Yeah, and honestly, this year it has to be a 2-horse race for the MVP. It has to be Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. If both of those guys are not in the MVP conversation toward the end of the year, both of those teams have failed, unfortunately. But Patriots Angelo says
I think Jalen Hurts is more likely than Lamar Jackson to be there.
Oh yeah, I mean Jalen. See, this is the problem with Jalen with like Jalen Hurts. Me and you sat here this time last year saying that Jalen Hurts might be a bust. Jalen Hurts has to have a good season to really get a contract.
Yeah, but he did enough to prove us wrong, though.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying like he had a spectacular year. He probably should have won the MVP. He was definitely the most valuable player for his team last season because we saw how bad the Eagles were without him on the field. But I almost want to say he got his contract too early. Like I wanted to see one more year. Like, hey, can you sustain this or at least play up to 80% of what you did last season? And like that's kind of like how the NFL we're in right now is like, I want to pay my quarterback now because I know if I wait one more year and if he has another successful season, I got to pay him even more. So,
well, you also look at the fact that last year, I mean, I know you say you got it a little bit early, but quarterback is not running back. It's a much more important position.
Right, I agree.
And they only lost one game with him as a starter last year, and that was the Super Bowl.
Right.
So that's a big deal. He went out and did his thing, and he went out and not only did he look good, but they looked unstoppable.
Right.
Last year with him as their starting quarterback before the injury, they were unstoppable. They were, what were they, 11-0, 12-0, something like that?
They're like 14 or 15-0, I thought.
They were up there, and then the injury came, and they looked very pedestrian. I like Jalen Hurts. I'm happy that he was able to prove us wrong. I'm happy he did
100%.
his thing. And so we'll see where it goes. I think he got his contract at the right time. I think the Ravens suckered themselves into having to give this contract to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, so I actually posted this other poll on our Facebook page as well. We kind of alluded to this on draft night a little bit. Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets for essentially 2 first-round picks, and the Jets could have basically got Lamar Jackson for two first-round picks, plus obviously like all that money as well. If you are a Jets fan, a Jets coach, would you rather have had Lamar Jackson or Aaron Rodgers?
I'd have to go Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers at 50% of Aaron Rodgers is better than 100% of Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Quarterback wise, anyway. I don't know. I mean, you've only got, the difference is if you have Lamar Jackson, you probably got him for the next 10 years, right? Aaron Rodgers, you got for maybe 2, maybe 3 at the most, if he even plans on playing past this season. But
who gives you a better opportunity to win the Super Bowl, Lamar Jackson or Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, top 5 quarterback all time.
Right.
He's notoriously bad in the playoffs. And so that gives me a little bit of pause for concern. But Lamar Jackson, I don't even know if he'll be healthy come playoff time.
Right. Also, on the flip side, Lamar Jackson has 4 losses in the AFC playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers undefeated in the AFC playoffs. So just
he's also winless in the AFC playoffs.
Undefeated sounds better, Combs. Guys, that's going to be it for the Man Hour. We're up against the hour. Send us out, Combsy.
Man Hour Nation, rise up.